Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope you've had a fantastic weekend, and I hope your Monday is going very swimmingly well. So how's everyone doing? Nice to see you all. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you had a nice bit of fine weather. I see VJ's in the chat. I hope you're enjoying Greece, mate. Yeah, let me know what you've been up to. Let me know who's in the chat tonight. Give me a wave, say hello. Let me know if there's anybody you want to say hello to. Tell me what you're drinking. Tell me what you're sitting hobbying. Are you just sitting with your feet up? It's always nice to know what you lot are doing. Seems you can all see what I'm doing. So let's have a look in the chat tonight and see how we see who we have. Because we'll get onto it, I'm sure, at some point. But my week has been pretty shitty so far. I apologise for the language, but yeah, it hasn't been the best of weeks, but we'll get on to that at some point. So, Super Pumpkin Man, nice and early tonight. Hello, fella, how you doing? Mark Cox, he was in nice and early as well, so he's working on some Argatoria 6mm stuff tonight. I don't know what that is, mate. Let me know what it is. He's looking forward to hearing more about the Kings of War campaign. So yes, if you've been living under a rock and you didn't see the thumbnail at the start of this stream, we will be talking about the global Kings of War campaign, which was announced just at the back end of last week. I had a brief chat with Mantic today to find out a bit more about it. I've got all my notes, and I've got some exclusive stuff that Mantic haven't announced about it that I can reveal to you tonight. So yeah, we'll be chatting Kings of War. We'll also be going over the community painting submissions from last week's stream that I didn't get a chance to get round to. We had a good old natter last week. I promise we will definitely get them in tonight. I'll make a point of it. And we'll be chatting about all manner of other things as well, whatever you want to chat about tonight as well. So make sure you get your requests in. If you've got anything specific to say to me, if you put at BlackJack Legacy in your comment, it highlights it up on my chat screen and I can see specific questions kind of directed at me as well. Or you can always do a super chat. He says, shilling to the man. Thank you very much. So, yeah, Mark Burton, good evening to you, mate. He says, wave back at you. Type 40 TARDIS, hello to you as well, mate. Coffee and Pistachios, good evening. Says, hope you are all well and good. I hope you're all well and good. We'll get to me. Let's just say I'm hobbling around on these at the moment, which is not how I planned the week to start. Who else have we got here? Zingbo, hello to you. John Estel, good evening, mate. How you doing? He said, evening all. Hope it's a good one for everyone. I'm painting up some skeletons. I'll probably be using it in the campaign. Thanks, mate. I look forward to seeing them. Blizzard says, hello, Olos, all. I'm here and actually painting for once. Nice one, fella. He said he's trying to shake off the cobwebs with some Death Guard. Sometimes you do just need to kind of stretch them brush skills a bit, don't you, and get started. Joachim, hello to you as well, mate. He said he's working on his Shatterpoint core set. I've been doing a bit of that this week as well. We'll get to that at some point. Colin Max says, evening, mate. Evening, mate, to you as well. Hope you're doing well, Colin. Clyde Dashing saying, hey, oh, nice to see you. We've got Major Tom there. Good evening, Ed. How are you? Hacksan's in as well saying, good evening. Basing some Orc Commandos and painting some aliens for this month's challenge. Yes, this month's challenge, if you didn't see it last week, is the Summer of Sci-Fi. So even if you don't really want to paint sci-fi stuff, I'm sure we can kind of we can weave in some fantasy stuff in there somehow. Like even Star Wars is a sci-fi fantasy, isn't it? Really. So I'm sure we can find a way around it. If you're not a sci-fi painter this month. Andrew Fairbanks says yo. I think I've got all the O's in there. Nice to see you, mate. Skulldoggery, hey, VJ, good evening. Joshua Dewberry as well saying it's going well now. I'm glad it's going well now, mate. We've got Blair in there as well saying, hey everyone, club game was cancelled, so he's here tonight. Well, their loss, mate, is my gain, so thank you very much. VJ says Greece has been amazing and the weather has been, I think, perfect, it said there before I jumped off the top of my screen. Let me have a little look if I go back. Yes, weather's been perfect. It's not been that bad here, mate, to be fair. It's been quite nice weather over the weekend. Type 40 TARDIS is working on some Armada Empire of Dust. Very nice, mate. I've got an Empire of Dust fleet all painted up that I took to an Armada event at Mantic HQ quite some time ago now. I think it might have been last summer. Or was it even the summer before? It feels like such a million years ago now. It might have been the summer before, actually. Clyde said he's working on some Stargrave crew for the monthly challenge. Nice one, mate. Joshua says milk and muffins because it's a lazy weekend. I do like a bit of milk and muffins, mate. I'm more of a milk and cookies guy, to be fair. Kodos, good evening to you as well, mate. VG says, so good to take another ancient wonder off my bucket list. Yeah, VG and I had this chat a couple of weeks ago. How long ago was it now? Yeah, like just over a week ago at UK Games Expo. He's very much somebody that appreciates the kind of the historical kind of tourism of going and sort of looking at ancient ruins and stuff. It's kind of lost on me. I told him a story about me sort of going to the Grand Canyon in Las Vegas and kind of getting there and sort of taking in the wonder of how amazing it looked for about 30 seconds and then just going, yep, I've seen it now. It's a big hole in the ground. I've kind of had enough. That's my kind of my uncultured tourism. I think I'd rather go in there, sort of go and be entertained somewhere different in the world, I think. Livid Fish Paints, what a cool name. He said he's based in Boneston, chilling here. Nice to see you in, mate. Josh Price says good evening. Joshua Dewberry says ooh. J-Pot says hope everyone's good. Far too hot and muggy to hobby tonight, but looking forward to the chat this evening. I'm looking forward to the chat this evening, mate. It's a bit hot and like it's just a bit warm in here, I would say. Like I think it's obviously the PC's running and the lights are on and the screens are on and like, it gets a little bit like a bit sticky in here. So yeah, we'll see how it goes through the night, but it's a bit warm in a minute. Tavinda, nice to see you in. He said, I hope you're doing well. Seeing Mantic release the core set with the new plastics is awesome. Definitely tempting. Yeah, definitely a lot more plastics seem to be coming through for Kings of War now, mate. Wayne Hayward says, hope you're doing okay, Andy. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, we'll get on to technically I'm doing fine, but yeah, I'm not much of a happy bunny at the minute. Said he's building his Shatterpoint terrain and minis. Nice one. Let's have a little look. Yeah, VG saying, ooh, BlackJack exclusive. Yeah, the little bit there highlighted is the stuff that that literally says unannounced content for your live stream. So there you go. That's what I've got to tell you tonight. Let's have a little look here. Tony Howell, nice to see you in, fella. How you doing? Colin Wakeland's in as well. VG says Yoakum around tonight. I haven't seen him in the chat yet, mate, but he might well be around. Big Dave says, evening all, chatting Kings of War. Can't wait to hear what Mantic have planned. Yes, we'll get to that very, very soon. Matt says, good evening all. Hope everyone's doing well. Nice to see you in, Matt. Tasty Brain Drain says, hope you're continuing to get better, Andy. So, for those that don't know, I had a really weird thing where I went to bed on Wednesday night last week, absolutely fine, and got up on Thursday morning and couldn't walk. I couldn't put any weight on my right foot for some reason. No idea what I've done. Absolutely, I think it's just a case of getting old. People have asked me if my wife's been beating me up in my sleep. I assume I would have woken up if that had been the case. I don't know whether I've just twisted something in my sleep, but I will show you what kind of state I'm in. I'm not going to stand up, but I do have a picture here just to kind of show you. So this is my current state at the moment. I'm on crutches and I've got a what the hospital kindly called a moon boot on my right leg. So this is I'm not trying to sort of zoom into my balls there. Let's just get that right. I was about to try and zoom into my leg there, but apparently that's not. Oh, there we go. So yeah, so I've got this lovely big moon boot on. I won't wave it around on the camera because it'll kill my leg trying to do it. But yeah, apparently I've got some serious soft tissue damage. Where we are, let me press the right button. Some soft tissue damage in my leg, and it's going to take about 3 to 6 weeks to heal. So yeah, Josh is saying, what did you do? I literally have no idea what I did. I didn't have an accident. I didn't trip and fall. I didn't sprain it. I haven't been like exercising to kind of do anything wrong with it. I've not been like running. I didn't kind of do any gardening, any heavy work or anything. I literally went to bed fine and got up in this situation. So yes, that's how I am at the moment. Mordecai says he's kish bashing some units now, but he can't find his green stuff. He'll have to finish them another night. And yeah, Coffee and Pistachio saying, no, they're crutches. Vijay saying, so the pain migrated, mate. That pain, mate, the pain from the weekend is gone now. That's one less thing to worry about. But yeah, I think it's just yeah. They say it comes in threes, so I'm hoping I'm hoping that whatever it is, the third one's not quite so bad. So yeah, for those that weren't on last week's chat, I ended up cutting UK Games Expo short because I wasn't very well while I was there. I got better from that and then done my ankle in. So yeah, I'm really, really, really hoping whatever the third thing is a minor thing that I'm not too worried about. Johnny Man, good evening, mate. How you doing? He's breaking a leg with tonight's show. For some reason, it's when I went to the hospital, they thought I'd fractured my foot. They actually thought I had an old fracture that had kind of like sort of flared up and had opened up again. And I said, I don't think I've ever fractured my foot, not that I'm aware of. But then they sent off my x-rays to the fracture clinic, and the fracture clinic rang me on Saturday morning and went, the consultants had a look at your x-rays. You haven't fractured your foot. It's just kind of serious soft tissue damage. However, that can be more painful than actually breaking your foot. So, yeah, good luck with that. So, yeah, and it has been painful, believe me. Deep Red, hail and well met to you as well, matey. How are you doing? Sunderland saying, evening all. He's finally painting again, finishing some minis he started months ago. That's the way, mate. Dig out the pile of opportunity and get stuck into those ones as well. Coxie's saying, Argatoria is a new fantasy ranking flank from Spellcrow with cannibals, Sasquatches, barbarians and lizards. New factions on the way. Interesting, mate. Bobby Clark, nice to see you in as well, my painting legend there. He says, good evening all. He's painting some Judge Dredd recently and he's trying out the new TT Combat paints. Yeah, I've got those as well, mate, the TT Combat paints. They are, you might be able to just, you can't see them on the screen there. I've had them to test out for a little while and I've been using them on and off for bits and pieces. I quite like them, actually. I think they're pretty good. Let's have a little look here. Kodos says, are we going to see you at Clash of Kings in Nottingham? If not playing, maybe making a video about it. Do you know what, mate? I'm not really sure. I hadn't planned to play in it. It's kind of like it's 2 days of quite serious Kings of War players, and I'm not sure I'm quite up to scratch of playing 2 days of tournaments. However, you know what? There's enough stuff going on, and the place is cool enough that I could quite happily probably hang out and do a bit of video and do a little bit of kind of interviewing the people that are winning the games and maybe sort of get a bit of footage. So yeah, who knows, mate? I might well make an appearance. It's in my diary so that I know which weekend it's on. But yeah, who knows? Who knows, mate? John Shepherd, good evening to you, mate. How you doing? Deep Red said he's working on his opponent for his Goblin acrylic army. Nice one, mate. Let's have a little look here. Yogam, nice to see you in as well, fella. How you doing? Jez, hello, mate, Jez. He said he's wearing swamp crotch season. I've never heard of that called that before, mate, but I instantly know what you mean. John says, I can hardly see. My eyes feel like they're full of grit this evening with hay fever. My little boy's been suffering from hay fever. The last couple of nights he's been pretty bad, but he refuses to take any medication for it, which is kind of frustrating. He's not one for taking taking any tablets or anything like that, so we're having to try and crush them up and put them into like a bottle of juice and try and get him to take them that way, because he's like he's just got hay fever, and it's easily solved if he'll take a bit of medication. But yeah, he doesn't want to take it. Matt says, my PC room becomes a nice little sauna room if I play anything strenuous on it with this weather. Yeah, it's in the winter, mate. It's quite a nice welcome addition to use the energy for a little bit of heating. Like I've got like 3 screens on, like my laptop and 2 monitors in front of me. I've got a ring light over there. I've got like a studio light up here. I've got a PC under the desk, which is like the fans just blowing nice and gently against my leg kind of thing. Yeah, it all adds up, doesn't it? It all adds up. VJ saying, question is, how many Guinnesses can I get into 40 hours in Dublin? He should be able to at least be able to do 120, mate. About 4 an hour, something like that. Coffee and Pistachio says, might not have woken up if she started the beating with your head. There is that as well, mate. Although I'm not really sure I would have changed much with a beating over the head. I don't think that would have really changed me. Yeah, VJ saying you're just a heavy sleeper, mate, and Luke can take advantage of it. Yeah, I think that's what it must be. Johnny says, rocking the boot. Hope you're back up and running soon, buddy. Yeah, me too, mate, as well. I mean, from what they've said to me, I basically have to keep this boot on until the swelling goes down and the the pain when I'm kind of walking about and stuff goes enough that I can just kind of put a normal shoe back on, and then I can start kind of taking it easy and that kind of stuff. I can at least put some weight back onto my foot now, so that's helping with the crutches and stuff, because for the first few days I was having to kind of like sling all of my weight around, and there's plenty of it, like taking the weight on my hands really to try and take the weight off my foot. But at least I can put a bit of pressure on it now, and that's kind of helped me get around a little bit. But yeah, just one of them weird things. Matt says, have you been having karate fights in your sleep? Everybody was kung fu fighting, that's what it was. Josh says, I have birth defects in both my feet. Basically, I have bone where a normal adult human has cartilage. I am very, very familiar with leg pain. Oh, do you know what? I said this to my wife the other day. The pain was like the first like day it happened, the first and second days. And also the day when I went to hospital and they were like prodding at it going, does it hurt here? Does it hurt when I press here? That pain, the last time I had pain like that was when I kind of did my back in. And like back pain is like, it's not nice. But yeah, it was nasty. Like, it was keeping me awake at night and stuff like that. And it was constant. It wasn't like kind of coming in waves and painkillers. Just wouldn't kind of take the edge off it. But I'm over the worst of that now, thankfully. Jess is saying, the joy of being in your late 40s. You're not wrong, mate. He says, go to bed fine, wake up and discover your head's falling off. You're not wrong. Super Boogie Man saying some sleep fight clubbing. I tell you, I was with my brother-in-law yesterday, and I went and sat in a pub garden basically, and had a couple of pints just to get out of the house for a bit. And there was a couple sitting behind me asking me what I'd done, and the guy said, "What?" And I explained, and he went, "Well, that's a bit crap, isn't it? Like, you could have at least told me like you had like a skiing trip or something like that, or that you were really drunk and kind of did something exciting." No, it's just getting old, isn't it? That's all it is. Let's have a little look down here as well. Catherine Smith, hello there. Nice to see you, Kath. How are you doing? Jessica, Andy's been cursed by necromancers. They put the leg hex on him. Be them Night Stalkers, mate, from Kings of War, invading the north. That's what it is. Invading them northern realms, mate. Coming up to the wall there. Coming up north, giving me grief, putting the hex on. That's what it'll be. Yeah, Vijay says, lucky we're not catching up this trip, or the hangover would be the third round of pain. To be honest, the hangover might take away the pain away. Yeah, Tony saying the joys of older age when going to bed is a perilous endeavour. To be honest, it's now become the most dangerous thing I do in my life, which is go to bed. Zingbo said he got a handful of TT Combat paints at UK Games Expo, including the red. I think you were so impressed by it. I was impressed by the red, mate, yeah. He says they do commit one sin though. They're too tall to fit in my paint storage drawers. Yeah, they are a little bit taller. So if I compare them to say, let's have a look. Have I got, oh, he says trying to twist around. Oh, yeah, so this is, sorry about that. These are the TT Combat ones. These are Vallejo ones. So they are that little bit taller. Oh, it's kind of zooming on my face there. I think I'll put it against the black background. You can see they're a bit taller. And then if I compare them to the Duncan Rhodes paints as well, yeah, they are a little bit taller. So if you do have kind of shelves and stuff for them, they might be a bit of a bugger. As it is, I've got these kind of, you can see these racks behind me. I've got my TT Combat paints in a rack the same as those as well, so that doesn't sort of cause a problem. Oh, let me just move my leg back. Zingbo, oh sorry, Dorky Dad says, nice to catch the live stream live. He says, under the weather, so not at work. I do have the 3D printer running. Battlefleet, Gothic, and Adeptus Titanicus odds and ends. Very nice, mate. We've got B Davies in. Nice to see you as well. Nice to see Dan Pillow as well. Welcome to the chat again tonight, mate. Vijay saying it would be awesome. I'd love to see some Kings of War tournament coverage on the channel, and I'm not even that into Tony's. Yeah, I think I'd like to do something that kind of almost like sort of round by round updates, rather than doing necessarily like a full edited video. Almost do it as like little YouTube shorts through the day, and just kind of grab little snippets of chats with people, or a little bit of commentary on a game or something like that, or showing off some of the really cool armies, because there will be some beautiful armies there. There's always some fantastic armies at the Kings of War, the Clash of Kings event. So yeah, maybe that might be something to kind of look at. Let's have a little look here. Jess is saying get some local honey in him. It's a good way to get a bit immune to local pollens, apparently. That's not a bad shout, actually, mate. Not a bad shout at all. Let's have a little look down here as well. I'll try and catch up with some of the chat here. Super Pokemon Man saying it's going to be 100 plus degrees every day this week. Yeah, that's not nice. That's the one thing I'm kind of like having my big boot on. If I go out in the sunshine, I'm going to end up with one white leg when I eventually take it off and go on my holidays in the summer. So yeah, I'm just trying to avoid the sun at the minute. Yeah, Haxan saying try local honey is for hay fever as well. John says it's not the weather for a moon boot. Will your boss give you some time off to recover? No, my boss is cracking the whip. I've got a pile of work I need to do over the next few months. I've got a couple of holidays that I've got coming up. And I've also got to have a bit of an operation in early August as well. So I'm trying to kind of I need to kind of hit the work schedule quite hard to allow me to have some kind of time off a little bit later in the summer as well. So yeah, Matt's saying yeah, show the minis need inspiration to get some painting done. Nice one, mate. Jay says, not knowing how you injured yourself is certainly less embarrassing than me having to tell a doctor that my back injury was due to me sneezing while I was reaching behind the TV to unplug a HDMI. I'm talking about how I had like sort of back pain was the last time I've really been in pain. It was years and years ago now, and I did that by bending over to pick the floor mat out of the car. I kind of bent down and my back went. So yeah, it's just the joys of being an old fogey. That's what it is, isn't it? Right, let me skip ahead a little bit here as well. Catherine saying, have you gone mad and built everything? I'm now painting it. Lord of the Rings all done, now painting the Dead Zone starter set. Living room is now a workshop. Oh, you have gone mad and built everything. Yes, sorry. And yeah, VG says, let's see some of those painted minis before we get too sidetracked and people get antsy again. Yeah, I tell you what, that's what we'll do. Before we get into Kings of War stuff, we'll show a few of the what they call the community painting stuff off. Let me get the emails up so I can go through and make sure I get people's comments and stuff like that, so I know exactly what they were talking about. Here we go. So who we got first? We've got Mr. Andrew Fairbanks first. Let me just switch over to here so you can all see it, and I'll zoom in a bit. As you can see here, we've got some are these bloodletters, bloodthirsters, I think. Let's have a little look and see what Andrew's saying here. So if you remember, the theme for this month was May B for May's challenge. So obviously the B here is for blood, whatever they're called again. Let me find his email. There it is. And he said, oh, it doesn't say what they are. It just says, almost didn't get anything done due to being out of Twin 2 weeks for work. Or out of town 2 weeks for work. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not. I know they're corn something, aren't they? Somebody will be telling me in the chat, but I haven't got the chat up there. Andrew says, did you go back to the real job? Thought you were doing this full time. No, not back to the real job, mate. No, I've just got loads of work to do on the channel because I need to have some time off because I've got an operation and I've got a couple of holidays planned. So I need to be able to make content to cover while I'm off, mate. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, bloodletters VG is telling me there. So yes, these are the GW bloodletters, aren't they? For I guess these are the ones that are both 40k and for AOS, aren't they, as well? So yeah, really nice kind of touch there. Always love them with kind of like the black horns. They've got like a little bit of kind of silvery white tips to them as well. Looking very, very nice. Thank you very much, Andrew, for submitting those. Next up, we've got Mr. Ben Mitchell, and Ben's been doing a little bit of Marvel Crisis Protocol there. Let me find Ben's email. He hasn't wrote anything on it, and I know this is Beast. I forget who this is now. The name escapes me. Somebody will be screaming that out at me as well. But yeah, nice colour choices, mate. Love the yellow belt as well for the X-Men belt there. Very, very nice. Yeah, Clyde saying those are lovely. Yeah, some really nice clean paint job on them. Love the basing on them as well. And yeah, that blue skin on there, looking rather nice. So thank you very much, Ben Mitchell, for submitting them. I'm assuming the B is for Beast this month. So there you go. That's how we'll shoehorn these ones in. We've got Mr. Chris Lupton. Oh, I've just come out of my emails there. Let's go back. We've got Chris. So Chris has submitted a couple of bits and pieces here. So if I go back to the original email. So we start off. And he said his painting challenge models for this month follows the theme Blood, Bones and Boulders. Very nice made for the bee there. He said the blood is from Black Scorpion Miniatures Vampire. So that's what this one is. Really nicely painted, mate. Love the highlights on the sash there and on the flower. The snow on the base looks nice in the background. Really does set it off. Some nice kind of shading as well there on the vampire's face. You've done an absolutely cracking job on that one, fella. Next up, he said we've got the bones are half a dozen. Oops, let me just. Half a dozen vintage late 80s Citadel plastic skeletons. And yeah, there's something quite characterful about those old 80s skeletons. Yeah, Coffee and Pistachio saying, yeah, classic scene with that vampire. Definitely is, mate, isn't it? And Matt saying spooky, scary skeletons. Love the basin, mate. Love the little kind of the marks as well on the foreheads. Yeah, just really, really nice. I always like that kind of classic kind of bone with a bit of black shading on them as well. Always comes out nice. And then next up we've got lastly there's Boulder the Troll from Moonstone. We'll have a little chat about Moonstone stuff later on as well. But yeah, this is Boulder the Troll, beautifully painted, mate. Lovely highlights on those trousers as well, and the rocks in the hand and stuff as well. And the face is really, really well done. Clyde saying they're gorgeous as well. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Very, very nice. And then he said he also managed to squeeze in a late entry here as well, which is beautifully painted, but what an ugly model in terms of like not ugly made, just like it's horrendous. And he said that with the extra chance he managed to complete something else. This time the B is for body parts. This is the Unholy Union, a model for Carnivore. So he'll probably use it as a monster in Warcry. He said it's been lying around his painting desk unfinished for quite some time, so it's nice to get it finished. Thank you very much, Chris. Like I say, very nicely done. Disgusting model, I think, is what I would say. But yeah, definitely when it comes to body parts. Clyde's here, and that's something. It is something, isn't it? Well, I love that kind of the yellow and the green there as well. It really does set it off. Nice work, fella. Next up, we have Clyde Dashin, the man himself. Let's find Clyde's email here as well. There we go. Clyde says, I present the battered bastards of Bastogne, Easy Company, 2nd Battalion, 101st Airborne, the Band of Brothers. Enough bees. I think that qualifies, mate. I think you definitely tick the box there for that one. But yeah, these are really nicely done as well, mate. Lovely setting as well there on a bit of a nice little background as well. Really nice job on them. Nice basing. Like I think they're really kind of like really tidy, really nicely done, mate. A little bit of a close up there as well. Nice with a little. It's amazing, isn't it? Just a little bit of scatter terrain just kind of grounds them in a bit of reality as well. Really nicely done. Yeah, I like those, mate. I must admit, I do like those. Well done, mate, and thank you very much for the submission. Nice work, sir. Dave Mackay is up next, and Dave, if I can find his email, has been painting. There we go. He's been painting dinos. As if you can't tell. He said the submission for the Maybe challenge, Maybe Dodos, really did write dinos. Bit of a change from the usual and board game minis. Just a bit of Dodo/dino silliness. Nice, mate. I like these. These are pretty cool. Lovely bright colours as well. Sometimes we don't always get the chance to paint brighter colours, do we? It's sometimes very muted or like dirty and grungy looking things. But these are nice, mate. I just love the very cartoon kind of style to them. Looks really nice, and the colours you've chosen work fantastic, mate. Really, really nice work. I don't know what these are for, but I do like them. But yeah, there's I just love them bold, bright block colours. They really do stand out well. And there's a nice little group shot of all the fellas and the girls together. Nice, mate. Thank you very much for the submission. Thank you very much again for taking part this month. Next up, Mr. Ed Hanley. And Ed, as you can see, has been painting some orcs there. He said, this is Orc Commando for Kill Team. I've decided when I got the Octorius box, if I ever painted the Commandos, I'd go classic Black Orcs. There you go. There's the B for Black Orcs. In the intervening nearly 2 years, I've prevaricated like mad and done the odd one here and there. but I thought I'd use this challenge to get them done, so here they are. Love that colour choice, mate. Really nice on the red, the way it stands out, and I love the highlights through it as well. Metallics look lovely, really nice. Love the colour choices for the cloth and the reds there as well. Again, nice basing, really sets them off. The little bedroll on the back there as well. John saying, oh yeah, John saying about the it's a racing board game, Dodos and Dinos. There you go, mate. I've never heard of that before, so that we know that what it is now. Love the flames up there as well, mate. It looks really cool. Same with them coming out of the burner there as well. Nice bit of base and always sets them off. I'm loving these kind of face masks on them as well. I'm not that familiar with a lot of the 40k stuff, so whether this is kind of like sort of personal choice or kind of like following a specific scheme, I've got no idea. But they do look cool. Really nicely painted, mate. I love how they're still kind of, you wouldn't want to sort of face them down a dark alley, but I like the kind of the comic book sort of humour in them as well. And a nice group shot there of them all together. Nice with that background as well, mate. Really nice work. Thank you very much, Ed. And again, thank you for taking part in the challenge. Next up, we've got Gary Jensen. And Gary has been painting. Let's see what if I can find his email. Gary Jensen, where's Gary? There he is. He said he's been hard at it with these lads. I don't have friends that war game, so I need to trick and bribe them to play. This is a band of Orlocks for Necromunda. He said my buddy is a big Sons of Anarchy fan, so I painted these for him. I named the models after characters in the show, and even put my friend in as a specialist. This way, he gets to be a member of the Sons of Ash Bad Penny chapter. There's your B. Hope you like it. And then took a very long time to magnetize and paint. The Kevin model is nearly a spitting image of him. So I'm assuming this is your friend Kev here. But there's a nice kind of shot of the gang there as well. Looking really, really nice, mate. Love the dog as well. It looks like a scary Dalmatian coming across there. I'm assuming this is the Kev model. Really nice work, mate. Nice work on the bases as well. The bits of materials setting it off nicely. Another shot of the gang there. Loving that dog. I'm sure we'll get to it somewhere, but yeah, really. What did we say this was? The Bad Penny chapter. Sons of Ash. Beautiful work, mate. Really do look good. And I hope this, if this doesn't help, if this doesn't get them to the table, mate, nothing will, because they look fantastic. Excellent. So I think we're roughly about, are we about halfway through? How many we got? 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll do one more. Mr. James Potter. And Mr. Potter there, if I can find him. Can I find his email? There he is. Mr. Potter. He says, okay, maybe this marks the return of me painting regularly after having to take such a long break from doing so in order to help take care of his mom. Anyway, I'm finally getting to submit an entry for a painting challenge. This is the Imperial Medical Droid from the Imperial Specialists Personnel Expansion for Star Wars Legion. This is not that great of a painting job. I beg to differ, mate. You've done a cracking job on it. He says, but I'm still a relatively inexperienced painter. Thank you so much for these painting challenges, and hopefully I'll be able to participate in the next one. And for those that don't know, James is Tasty Brain Drain in the chat there tonight as well. It looks awesome, mate. Really like it. Never ever be kind of sort of. I mean, you can always be critical about your own paint jobs, but never be ashamed of them. Never say that they're not good enough. It looks fantastic, mate. And any paint on a mini is better than no paint. And compared to how much I've painted in the last few months, you're absolutely flying, mate. So keep up the good work, and it's nice to see you getting the brushes picked up again. But yeah, well done, fella. Well done. Really like that. Nice work on the basin as well. The little tuft there really sets it off. And the red round here was a nice choice too. So yeah, well done, mate. Well done. So we'll be starting with Yoakums next. In fact, let me just set a new folder up here. Move all the ones across that we've already done, so I don't get them confused. Put that in the new folder. There we go. Let's move them all out the way, and then I'll just rename that so we know which ones we've done, and we'll come back to those very, very soon. So let me just nip back to the chat here, because I couldn't see that while we were chatting. Yeah, everybody's having a little bit of chat there about the different stuff. Zingbo was saying Boulder was the model that sold me on Moonstone as soon as I saw him. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff. Neil Pilot says, so have we reached a point where miniature painting can be considered art? These are all lovely. I think it's always been considered art, mate. Anything you do that's creative should be considered art. If you're kit bashing a model and you're changing it from the way it was originally meant to be sort of assembled, I guess it's a creative art in that, like it's a work of art. You're sculpting it to do something different. If you're sculpting capes onto something that it wasn't there, it's a work of art. If you're scratch building terrain, it's a work of art. So yeah, I would always consider them a work of art. So yeah, some nice comments there about the different bits and pieces. Just reading VJ's comment about being unable to flush toilet paper. Red Rose Wargaming, good evening, Anna. Nice to see you in the chat there as well. It says just been busy painting some Moonstone tonight. We'll be chatting about Moonstone at some point this evening as well. Tasty Brain Drain saying thank you for the kind words. You're very welcome, mate. You're very, very welcome indeed. And someone says, yeah, just doing thing is key to be painting again, to have fun again and enjoy the hobby. 100%. That's always what these painting challenges are about. So if anybody's new to the chat tonight, or anybody hasn't taken part in the painting challenge before, it's not about who's the best painter. It's not about who paints the most. It's not about who sort of finishes kind of the most armies or anything like that. These monthly painting challenges are just to try and give you a little nudge to pick up the brushes and to paint something. It can be one model, it can be a set of models, it can be some board game miniatures, it can be anything, like sort of anything you want. It can be a bit of terrain, whatever you want. It's just to kind of give you a little bit of a go on, kind of bit of a nudge, get the paint brushes out. That's what it's all about. Let's have a little chuck. Clyde says the get it done challenges. That's the one, mate. Yeah. Jesse, sorry, couldn't comment on those. I'm painting masks for work. Those minis all looked awesome. And Ed says the way I paint is more advanced colouring in. I tell you what, mate. Even colouring in can be classed as being artistic, mate. I've watched many a YouTube channel where you see these comic book artists taking a colouring book and making them look amazing. So yeah, anything can be art if it's artistic, mate, I think. So let's get on to the main topic for tonight. Kings of War. We're talking Kings of War. The let's have a get me information up. The global campaign, and if I press the right button, you should be able to see this. So for those that don't know, Mantic Games are have announced, or they announced on the 9th of June, which was Friday, I think it was, that they are having a Kings of War global campaign called Shadowed Horizons. And the campaign launches, he says, excuse me, the campaign launches on the 8th of September. So you've got a little bit of time to kind of get your head around this and get ready for it. And it kicks off with a huge Northern Alliance versus Night Stalkers battle, which will be taking place at Mantic HQ. So on that Friday that it kicks off, it's the day before the Clash of Kings weekend. Mantic HQ is going to be opening its doors, and they're going to have this huge, big Northern Alliance versus Night Stalkers battle. And you'll be able to find out how, if you're in and around Nottingham for that weekend for the Clash of Kings, or you live nearby, or you just want to go and visit for the day, you'll find out how to attend that. And the idea is it's going to be a bit of a visual treat. They're going to be asking as many people as possible to bring a set of the new Ravens. So if anybody hasn't seen them, they're the Frostclaw Riders, the Ravens with dwarves riding on the back. I'll show you some pictures of them soon. Or you can bring like a unit of Night Stalkers, like either an infantry or heavy infantry unit. And the idea is everybody just kind of comes and puts all their models onto the table, or like a model each kind of thing. And even if you don't play either army, it's a nice little kind of hobby project to work on leading up to that day as well. And the campaign is going to run throughout September. It's going to have weekly updates to based upon the narrative, which we'll come to in a little bit. And the narrative will get influenced depending upon whether good or evil of all the different races across Panathor, whether good or evil is currently dominating the battle. Now, interestingly as well, Armada Games will also be taking part as part of this global campaign as well. So if you don't play Kings of War, I mean, of course, you could maybe think about getting started and getting involved with the global campaign in September. But if you want to have your games of Armada, the naval combat game, they will also affect the outcome as well, and they'll affect the campaign by sort of giving special rules, such as the winners from the Armada game will give extra supplies to their Kings of War armies as well. It might be things like extra re-rolls or something like that. But what happens in the Armada naval battles will also influence the global campaign as well. Now, Mantic are going to be using a free-to-use website where you can kind of log in and log all of your results as well. So if you're playing a game at home, or you're playing a game in a tournament, or you're playing at a local club or something like that, you can log in, you can record your gameplay in there, you can record the results, and you can also check the progress of the campaign to see whether good or evil are swinging the fight in their direction. And the plan is to try and have kind of like awards and profile badges as part of this campaign system as well. And Mantic are working in the background to kind of try and add this functionality in, ready for September. Now, there's some stuff. Let me have a little look through here before I give you some exclusive stuff. So yeah, you can read through this. This is on the as you can see here, this is on the Mantic website. If you go to the news section, or here the community section, you can see there's information here which Johnny's put up there, and some of the details we've been talking about there. It tells you a little bit here about why it's called Shadowed Horizons, and about how your successes and failures will shape the world of Panathor. Here you can see the map here, and a lot of the kind of the narrative aspect of this is revolving around this area called Chill here, and that's where the Northern Alliance are kind of based. And we're going to be basically, they're being attacked by the Night Stalkers, and that's the narrative arc of this particular story. As you can see here, it's telling you about what I've just been telling you about. Sort of, you can basically you can choose to lead mighty Kings of War army for good. You can command a small ambush company of warriors for evil, or you can captain a fleet of ships in Armada. But every battle you fight will help affect the course of the story, and this will affect the story in the future of Panathor and the future of Kings of War lore going forward as well. So it doesn't matter if you're brand new to Kings of War and you've never played before. You can get yourself a very small or ambush army, which is the kind of the small scale of Kings of War. You can get started with one of those ambush boxes, which we'll talk about in a second. If you're a seasoned gamer and you've been playing for a long time, you can play your big 2,000, 2,500 point battles as well and get involved. Or if you just want to sail a few ships around, you can also do it like that as well. And it's saying here that basically together we will explore the depths of Panathor, forging legends and writing our own stories. And in years to come, when these epic events are a famous keystone of the game's history, you'll be able to say, I was there. And I love this picture, the big, the Northern Alliance against the Night Stalkers, big battle there as well. So yeah, you see every battle counts, every decision matters, and everything is at stake. And some of the things that I've got to announce to you tonight as well that haven't been released by Mantic yet are basically that all of the games from Clash of Kings that weekend will count towards the campaign, and there's going to be about 750 games taking place over those 2 days of Clash of Kings. So if you're taking part in that event, Johnny's here, he's great. If you're taking part in that event over the weekend, the games you play will be recorded and will go into the annals of history as part of this global campaign. And also there's going to be some kind of extra heroes that will be involved in and amongst this campaign as well, that you'll be able to recruit into your armies. And these heroes will all be from the Dungeon Saga Origins heroes, plus a couple of extras as well. So if you remember from the Dungeon Saga Origins, the heroes that you could choose to play, there was Rodin, the Dwarf Fighter, there was Olaf, the Barbarian, there was Danor, the Human Wizard, and there was Madriga, the Elf Ranger as well. And they will be kind of mercenary, almost kind of heroes that you can recruit into your army as part of this narrative campaign. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about the background and about what's the narrative aspect of this campaign as well, if you go to the Mantic community site, you will see today It's very, very kindly. There is a story called An Icy Void. It's a Shadowed Horizon short story. This is part 1. Part 2 will be coming a bit later in the week as well. So this is the story behind the on-land battles, about basically what's the narrative, what's the story behind it. I've had the chance to read through it. I won't spoil it for you because I've managed to read parts 1 and part 2 as well. All I will say is it sounds fantastic. But part 1 is there on the website. If you just go in, you click on there, and then there is the first part of the short story, and you can have a read through it, and this will give you loads of background information about the narrative aspect of what the global campaign will be. And then there's also a separate bit of lore as well about the at-sea version. And the at-sea version, the Armada version, is around an abyssal dwarf fleet, which is aided by a mysterious Twilight Kin agent, and they prepare to defy the Basilean Navy in a brazen act that will never be forgotten and will reshape the balance of power in the infant sea. The guys at Mantic have given me like a bit of a relevant lore here about the Abyssal Dwarf Navy, and I'm going to read it because I think it's interesting, really, and it's not too long, so I'll kind of give you the background. It says the shipyards of the Abyssal Dwarfs are hellish places, sprawling factories and blazing forges belching smoke into the already black skies over Tragar. Yet only a small portion of the shipyards lie overground. The cruel, pulsing heart of the abyssal dwarf industry burrows deep through the cliff face and mountainside, drawing power from the infernal abyss itself. The dwarfs and their underlings toil day and night at the behest of the overmasters, creating ever more powerful vessels. These monstrous behemoths of steel and brass loom from the waterline like abyssals themselves, covering in leering faces and festooned with infernal weaponry, spewing fire and smoke. Each ship is dedicated to an iron captain who's bound to the vessel in a blasphemous ritual, such that the ship reacts to the captain's very will like a living creature, or more apt, like a tortured soul. The Iron Captains form a cabal of sorcerous sailors, much feared in the low sea of Swan and the frozen sea. For centuries, their ambitions have seemingly stretched no further than dominance of their coastal holdings, defence fleets for the gateways into Tragar by sea. But of late, the shipyards have grown, the Iron Captains have doubled in number, the sea power of the Abyssal Dwarfs has become formidable, perhaps too formidable to be contained any longer. And that's kind of the background to what we'll be seeing for the Armada portion of this global campaign as well. So as you know, the Abyssal Dwarf fleet hasn't been released yet. We haven't seen it yet, but that will be coming out in time for you to pick that up and sail those ships on the seas as part of this campaign. So yeah, it sounds really exciting. It's lovely to see the expansion of some of the lore and the background of Kings of War. It's a really, really rich background. I've said this before. I think the background to Kings of War is absolutely fantastic. I personally would like to see that kind of tie in with the gameplay a little bit more. Like the stories we hear talk about specific kind of heroes and things, and we don't necessarily see them like called out in the game itself as a hero to play. You could of course say this particular dwarf hero is this dwarf hero from the stories. That's my only kind of criticism as somebody kind of sort of not involved in Mantic, if you like, as somebody just like looking from afar. That's my only criticism, really. But the stories are growing all of the time. It's no longer just this kind of sort of abstract fantasy thing. Panathor is a real world now. It's not just the Tolkien-esque kind of just copy and paste of other fantasy stuff. Things like the Night Stalkers, things like the Northern Alliance, they're very, very much kind of Mantic's own faction stuff now. And there's some really, really cool stuff. We were talking about the ravens with the dwarfs riding on the backs of them. I'll show you those now as well. So this is what they look like, and I think this is really cool. Not something you see very often, so it's nice to see something a little bit different as well. And these are a brand new unit which are coming to the Northern Alliance army at the minute. And for those of you that basically, if you've never played Kings of War before and you're thinking about getting started with it, the new ambush rules now basically are you can play smaller point games. So anywhere basically up to 995 points, you can play as an ambush game. And the way ambush works is it is essentially the Kings of War rules, but there are a few more restrictions in place to try and keep the game a little bit more balanced. Because if you start taking huge big monsters and big kind of hordes of troops, it becomes a bit unbalanced at smaller point levels. So there's been a few tweaks, just basically telling you that, you know, you can only take troops and regiments. You can only take one hero for every troop or regiment that you take. You can only take one of each, like sort of hero or monster. And you can't, I think in games up to 995 points, the maximum points that you can take, like for any one model, is 250 points. So if there's monsters for sort of 270, 280 points, you can't take them in games of ambush. And there's some really great ways to kind of get started in that. The 2-player starter sets that we can see here, there's a few different 2-player starter sets. There's the Sands of Amun, which basically is the Empire of Dust and the Ogres. So if you're a fan of one of those two armies, this is a good way to start. There is the Storm in the Shires 2-player starter set. This is the one with the Riftforged Orcs and the Halflings. So if you're a fan of either one of those two, or you want to split them with a friend, that's a good way to get started. And there is the War in the Holds 2-player set, which is the Goblins and the Ratkin as well. And then the other one, which is the newer one, is the Ice and Shadow 2-player set as well. Oh, sorry, I think it's the original set, but I think it's got the newer models in now. Is the Ice and Shadow 2-player set, which fits very nicely with the new campaign as well, which is Night Stalkers and is Northern Alliance as well. And you can see here they do these ambush starter sets now. So we'll have a look at this Night Stalker one because it's the first one in front of us. And this is £35. £35, you're getting 3 units, you're getting quick start rules, you get a nice little starter, leaflet which shows you how to build the models, gives you a bit of background, tells you what to kind of do next. You can see now as well that there's instructions here as well for building the models, which is not something that Mantic have always done. And these are the new plastic Night Stalker stuff as well. So here you can see, if I just scroll them down a little bit, you can see those, which are absolutely, I was going to say beautiful, but you know what I mean. And then we also have the Butchers as well. And these are looking fantastic. I think they're the Butchers. I think these guys, I think it might be called Reapers or something like that, I think. But yeah, they're looking cool. These used to be the old PVC stuff. I wasn't a massive fan of the PVC stuff, but I actually have, I actually have one of the frames of this that Ronnie left when he was last here that I could have a look at. And the quality of these, again, they're made by Mantic's new supplier, the same as the Ogre ones that I showed you before. The quality of these frames are fantastic now as well with the plastics. Yeah, but these ambush boxes for 35 quid are a perfect way to get started. You can, I mean, it'll be low points, but you can play with just kind of one of these small boxes against a small box just to get started. And then if you want to, obviously you can sort of add to that. And there's lots of different factions for those as well. So there'll be more news coming later on in the week about the global campaign, about slow grow campaign as well that Mantic will be organising, building up to the start of the global campaign as well. So if you're wanting a little bit of motivation to get started, there will be that as well. But for me, I love the fact that, like, Kings of War can be a competitive game. We know that there are lots of tournaments for it. We know Clash of Kings is a big event. There's over 100 people attending this year. It's the biggest Clash of Kings event that we've ever had in the UK. And it's really good to kind of see Kings of War growing and more people kind of taking part in it. But it's not just about competitive gaming. The narrative side of Kings of War is also fantastic. And the more people that get to kind of experience the narrative side, be it through narrative campaigns like this, or just by kind of reading up on some of the background lore. Because if I take you back, let me see, if I go to, is it in here? There we go. I knew it was there somewhere. If I take you back to this, so if you go to the Mantic website, you go to Kings of War and you go to the books section. If you look here, you can see there's all this super duper free stuff here. There is the Kings of War 3rd edition rules, which are free from a digital download. And then you can also get the World of Panathor, which is all of the background and the lore and the stories It basically says here, World of Panathor is a 3 downloadable PDF containing the background and setting for Kings of War. This 321-page book provides the lore and background to the World of Panathor and history for each of the factions playable in Kings of War. And yeah, I've read through quite a big chunk of it because it's in the old rule book as well, not as opposed to being separate. And it's really kind of, it's come on like sort of leaps and bounds from where it was going back 6, 7, 8 years ago. So if you haven't sort of took the deep sort of dive into the world of Panathor, I would 100% recommend getting this free digital download and immersing yourself in that prior to the global campaign kicking off. Let's have a little look in the chat here and see what folks are saying here. Clyde saying, see how fast one can paint an entire army before this starts. The thing is, mate, if you're wanting to get started for the global campaign, think about getting started with Ambush. You only need to paint 500 points worth of models. 500 points might be 3 or 4 units or something like that. If you want to go up to like the 995 point level, you're probably still only maybe talking 5 or 6 units to get to that level with maybe a hero model or something like that. So it's not a huge amount to paint over the next 3 months. And if you're somebody that already has an army for Kings of War and you think, well, I'm going to play that in the campaign, you might want to start kind of like a small ambush army. You know, if you've always wanted to kind of play goblins, for example, but you don't want to paint 2,500 points of them, painting up a small ambush army is a great way to kind of dabble with a bit of a hobby project, something that's still playable, but something that kind of brings you a little bit of fun as well. VG saying everyone loves rooting for the bad guys. Josh is saying a few months to get my Northern Ogre idea off the floor. Do it, mate. Do it. Jesse, it sounds like a really fun campaign. It does, mate. It really does. Johnny said he's building his halflings as we speak. Might have them done in time. I'm sure you will, mate. No doubt. Josh is saying he loves a good halfling as well. Colin saying he's just got the Armada box set. Perfect, mate. Get them all built up. Get them painted and get yourself some Armada games and see how you can help shape the future of Panathor as well. Camo, good morning, mate. How are you doing? Tony saying he loves the TT Combat Halfling sci-fi dudes. They're not on general release yet, but they're hilarious. I don't even think I've seen those ones yet, mate. Joshua says, does this mean an Abyssal Dwarf fleet is coming? I think it does, mate. I think it does. Yeah, Zingbo saying the Abyssal Dwarfs sound like nice fellows. Yeah, I like the idea that the captains are kind of like sort of, they're tied to their ships, and the ships basically kind of, they sail according to the will of the captain as opposed to him standing there kind of like steering it with a big wheel kind of thing. I like that kind of idea of this abyssal kind of almost like demonic sort of possession of the ships. I quite like that. Matt says the sort of fellows who believe in workers' rights. I'm sure they get holidays and sick pay and stuff as well. Tony says, I do like Abyssal Dwarfs. They're a fun twist on the theme. They are, mate, yeah. Big Dave says, hopefully this campaign will result in the Twilight Kin return. I'm glad it's getting better with the lore and history of the world. The Twilight Kin are on the way back, mate, if you're not familiar with it. So at the minute, the Twilight Kin have been removed from the rules with the army lists, basically because what Mantic didn't want people to do was to start buying older models and bits and pieces and starting a Twilight Kin army, only to find that kind of come the end of the year when the new Twilight Kin army releases, everything's changed and there's loads of new models and people have spent time and money and effort building an army, only to find out there's some really cool new models. So they're trying to do it from a nice way of doing it, really. There's still an army list for Twilight Kin, should you have a Twilight Kin army that you want to play, but Mantic have kind of made it semi non-supported, ready for the new lists coming with the new models and the new plastics and all the cool stuff. So yeah, if you're a fan of Twilight Kin, keep watching because they will be coming back very, very soon. Matt's saying, yeah, holy crap, they look nice. They do look nice, mate, yeah. Jess says they're very cool crows. You certainly wouldn't want to be crapped on by them flying overhead, that's for sure, would you? Josh is saying, yeah, it's simply gorgeous. Big Dave saying, dwarves on birds, love it. Yeah, VJ saying the war in the hole set for the win. You can't beat gobbles and rats. Yeah, Josh is saying he loves the rats as well. Just saying, I got the Goblin Ambush box. They're great ways to get going, not too overwhelming in the numbers. It's a perfect way. Like, if I would suggest, I think sometimes when we buy 2-player starter sets, we can sometimes get overwhelmed. There's a lot in the box. You're trying to learn the rules. You're trying to build all the models. You're not quite sure how you should build them, whether you should build them in a troop or whether you should build them in a regiment or whether you should build them as this unit or that unit. There can be, if you're brand new to a game and maybe brand new to tabletop gaming, it can be quite overwhelming with starter boxes. However, the ambush box for me is like £35 is an affordable way to kind of dip your toe in, see if you like the models, see if you like building and painting the models. There's less kind of analysis paralysis of like, how should I build them? Like there's some instructions in the box to tell you kind of how they go together. And it's a nice little way to have a little hobby project, even if you don't get any further than that box. £35 and like a nice little model kit to kind of to build, and maybe you build them and you can play like a small points ambush game, and if you enjoy it, and maybe you buy like a couple of expansions and you start to build on the army and you start to build your points up. I think it's a great way for people to get into Kings of War who initially, and I include myself in this as well, who initially would look at Kings of War and go, I'm not building and painting 2,500 points worth of this stuff. Like this, that's just like, to go from 0 to 100 is just like, that's too far away. I'm not going to be able to play the game until I've built and kind of painted all that stuff. I think ambush is a really, really good way of easing in new players. Some people will never sort of go beyond them smaller points games because they're having fun with those kind of small points levels. And it's good to see people are actually playing that as well. So yeah, watch out for that stuff. Josh is saying, I plan on getting the sands for the rule book in August to get an army going. Nice one, mate. Clyde saying, yeah, it gives him an excuse to build another army, yeah. Kodos says, be aware that going with preferred model count and use the models from the frames to make heroes. The ambush boxes can make 500 to 600 points force. There you go, mate, yeah. NMP22, good evening. Said he's building my Ratkin ambush set tonight. Nice. Look forward to seeing that one. Type 40 Taurus says, as if I need an excuse to paint more. And hell yes to the Abyssal fleet. Blizzard saying he's got 2 of the Northern Alliance ambush starters on pre-order to go with his 4,000 point army from the slow grow I did a couple of years back. Amazing, mate. Amazing. I want to see a big shot when that's all done. Yeah, Titty Brain Drain saying I agree, it's a nifty idea. Livid Fish Paint says, I've got a wife here waiting for Twilight Kin to go with her Armada ships. Yeah, if I remember right, mate, I think the plan is for them to come the back end of the year. Clyde saying that's 0 to 2,000 points is the exact reason I have boxes of Kings of War armies completely unbuilt in the corner. We've all been there, mate. We've all been there. And Type 40 Taurus has always been a huge Chaos Abyssal Dwarf fan since the 80s. Bring on more pointy hat dwarfs. Yeah, nice one. So yes, so that's the plan for the Kings of War campaign. There's more news coming from Mantic later on this week. As I said, they've got the first part of that narrative story. The second part is coming, I believe, on Wednesday, but don't hold me to it. It's coming out later this week, so you'll be able to read both parts of that as well. There's going to be some information about a slow grow campaign coming as well. There'll be more information about that Friday event, how you can get involved and get down to Mantic HQ and get involved in this huge, big sort of Kings of War narrative event between the Twilight Kin and the Northern Alliance. The new Northern Alliance armies are up for pre-order at the moment as well, with the brand new plastics. They're looking fantastic. Fantastic. And of course, there's the Clash of Kings as well. And as I mentioned before, all of those games will be getting fed into that campaign, which I think is fan bloody dozy. Jez is saying campaigns are a great community movement for games. Yeah, I don't think we see enough of that narrative side. There is so much of the competitive element of gaming that gets pushed into, especially online stuff, because like from a content creator point of view, there are lots and lots of people who want to talk about the competitiveness of certain armies. They want to do kind of like sort of competitive gameplays. They want to try and tell you which are the best units. It's easier to talk about that stuff because it's constantly shifting with different metas and stuff like that. But there's not as much narrative stuff. Ed saying, problem for me is the I go you go rule set, not the amount of stuff to paint. Nevertheless, I hope this goes well for those playing. Yeah, not every game's for everybody. I absolutely agree with that, mate. Some people don't like I Go, You Go. Some people love it. There are different games where I Go, You Go is a real negative. There are some games where it works really, really well. Everybody loves different stuff. Not every game is for every person. But yeah, what we'll do now is we'll crack back on and we'll go back into the rest of, if I can find where I've put it. There it is. The rest of the community stuff. And we'll get through the rest of those as well. So starting with Mr. Joachim Gustafsson. And he has, if I can find, I know this is a Moonstone mini, and he's saying, here's my take on the May B challenge. Mama Gimbal shouting Moonstone and Yeast Boys. Don't you dare come home without it, or we'll be without dinner. Mark my words. I love that, mate. Fantastic paint job you've done on this, mate. Love the little flowers on the base and the little tufts and stuff. Really nice shading and highlighting as well on the cloth. And the skin tones on the face with the little red nose really does set that off, mate. Really does. You can see here as well the rolling pin down the side and the little cloth hat, the little mushroom behind it. We'll chat briefly about Moonstone when I've gone through these stuff, because there's some really cool stuff for Moonstone if you're not familiar with it. But yeah, nice colour choices, mate. I love the setting as well. It kind of feels nighttime in the pictures. You've done a good job on these photographs, buddy. Even with the little water on the face as well, and the kind of the dark tips towards the ears. Really, really nicely painted, mate. Fantastic stuff. Your stuff seems to get better every month, mate. Really well done. Now, Marco Light, he's been painting some stuff as well, and he didn't necessarily take part in the monthly challenge, but he messaged me because when we chatted at UK Games Expo last week, and he was going off to a painting class, a painting seminar, where he was basically getting sort of painting lessons really from I forget who it was, but it was a well-known kind of painter. And this is the model that he painted while he was away at that painting seminar. And it looked absolutely beautiful, so I wanted to share it off. I love the basin. It just really kind of grounds it in a bit of reality. Marco's painting has just gone from strength to strength over the years, and he's got a very distinct style that I really, really like. Some lovely shading, lovely highlighting, really nice kind of the colour tones all really come together beautifully. The here as well, like the shade from the back of the model standing there, which would have put shade on the back of the barrel there, but a bit of light hitting it from this side. It's just really, really nice. And whatever he's being taught at this painting class has really definitely shown off. But yeah, absolutely beautiful work, Marco, and thank you very, very much for sharing it with us. Next up, we got Mr. Marcus Schneider, and Marcus has been painting some Gundam stuff, I think. Let me find his email. There we go. He says, for the May B challenge, I decided on a high grade 1/144th scale Gundam Barbatos from the series Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans. I'm not familiar with Gundam stuff, but I know a big Japanese robot when I see one. Yeah, really nice, mate. Some lovely colour choices. The blues, the yellows, the reds, and really go together nicely with the white, mate, as well. And it's yeah, it's pretty. They are quite dynamic, these things, aren't they? They look cool. I forgot they were like posable stuff. But yeah, it looks cool, mate. Really, really nice. Nice, you can kind of pose those up. I wish you could do that with with minis that we kind of game with. There would not be none of this kit bashing if you could keep reposing them, would there? Even got a couple of different weapon options there as well. But it looks awesome, mate. Thank you very much for your submission there. And yeah, I look forward to see what you do next month as well, mate. Thank you for taking part again. Next up, we have Mordecai, who I think we've still got in the chat tonight. And I've just seen him there. Here we go. He said, we decided to have a last minute game of Sword Weirdos this weekend, so I was in desperate rush to get some fantasy models painted and ready to field, but I was also completely out of practice and I had not painted anything at all for several months at this point. I feel that, mate, as well. So I managed to salvage some mismatched one-page rules Beastmen bits out of the test prints box, grabbed some army paint as speed paint, and with a heavy hand set to work on a vaguely Zechian theme with bone armor and weapons. I think that's these fellas here. This is the inevitable result of this hasty and poorly thought out paint job is best described as sloppy. I disagree, mate. I think it looks finished. That finished is a good colour. Really, really nice, mate. Yeah, and he's also been painting up some bits of getting some terrain ready for the game there as well. But I think that looks awesome, mate. Now I think you must have sent me. Did he send me? Must have sent me 2 emails. There it is. And that was the other one. And he said he knocked. Whoops. Let me just get the chat down there. He said he knocked out a warband here as well in an afternoon. So thought maybe I'd share it if I haven't missed the cutoff. You hadn't, mate. And the yeah, so I don't know what these are, but they look awesome, mate. I really like them. I'm not familiar with the models, but yeah, really, really nicely done, mate. They look cool. They look cohesive. They look like a ragtag band ready to take on anything. Particularly love this one here as well. I can't. That one's just. Let me just. There you go. Scroll that one across so you can actually see that one on the edge, because I quite like that one. You couldn't really see it. I love this one with the kind of like the cloth around the neck, around the face. Yeah, nice work, mate. Thank you very much for sharing those. Paige. So Paige has been sharing somebody else doing a bit of Gundam stuff as well. Said he painted a Gundam model. Always like Gundam robots growing up as a kid, but without painting experience. The unpainted Gundams always look underwhelming. He says if things had gone differently, maybe I'd be a Gundam kit modeler instead of a miniature gamer and painter. Yeah, so this is what he's been painting. And again, really nice to see how you can kind of pose these things as well. It looks awesome, mate. Because a lot of these are just coloured plastic and a lot of people don't bother painting them. But you can really go to town on them as well. It just shows how flexible they are as well as a kit. Like being able to repose them. Kind of laser swords and huge big guns. I've never really kind of been into the Gundam stuff, but I must admit that they do look great. I can imagine maybe doing one day. Looking good, mate. Thank you very much, Paige. Awesome work as always. Next up, we've got Samir. And Samir, if I can find his email, says, there we go. He says, once again, your hobby challenge has kicked motivation into gear. Thank you very much, mate. He says, I present to you a BattleTech bushwhacker bounding over boulders on a black base between a pair of beautiful bunkers. See what I maybe did there. I like it, mate. Really getting back into BattleTech as of late and just had to paint one of my favourite mechs and some new terrain for this month. Thank you for another wonderful challenge. You are very welcome, mate, and it's thanks to folks like yourself taking part that keeps these challenges going. So yeah, love the kind of the camo there as well, the choice of camo. Nice with the basin as well. I'm not familiar with BattleTech stuff, but it looks pretty cool, mate. I really do like it. And then we can also see some of the bunkers that he's been painting up as well, which I'm assuming are just kind of like terrain on the game as well. I don't know how it works with the hex sort of layouts, but no, it looks really cool, mate. Nice work. I'm sure they would look awesome on the tabletop. A nice bit of work there, Samir. Thank you very much, mate, for taking part. Next up, we have Mr. Stephen Hollowich. And I think, if I'm right, this is a Carnivalian miniature, I think. Let's find Stephen's email. Here it is. Yep, Carnivali Guild Black Lamp. There's the B for you. I tried to show reflected light from the lamp. I think that's come off really well, mate. You can see how it's definitely brighter across here and dark into the recesses and stuff. Really nice, mate. Nice cobbled base there as well. Nice work on the highlights and stuff. And yeah, showing off the kind of light coming through the lamp. And nice work as well on the face there. Lovely model, mate. Very well painted. Thank you very much for submitting that as well. And last but not least, we have Mr. Tony Howell. I need to stop doing this in this order because it alphabetizes them. And Tony Howell always ends up being the last one. And he was one of the first ones to submit his stuff. So he started with this one, which I think is awesome. And he said, this is a little submission from me. This is Barry McGuffin. From We Print Miniatures. I love this, mate. The kind of definitely not inspired by Arnold. I love the camo on the trousers, mate, and the skin tones look fantastic, and the basin really does set it off. However, this is the one I think we all want to see. Let me find Tony's. He sent this one as a second email. I'm just trying to find the. There it is. He said, "I'm breaking with tradition and making a second entry for the month." He says, Major Tom takes credit for the title of this. The diorama is Maybe We Should Have Stayed in the Watch House. This is absolutely beautiful, mate. So Tony was building the diorama And he's a good active member of our Patreon group, and has been showing us some like step by step and through the stages and the bit where he was pouring the resin and putting it all together. And it was amazing to see it all come together. And it is just beautiful to see this work. If I remember right, this is a Mantic Hellboy kind of Kraken miniature, which is being used in here as well. I'm not familiar with these models at the back as what they're from, but they look cool, mate. And here we can see another shot of it, but yeah, you can see like right up the back wall and stuff as well. This is all kind of all scratch built stuff. Hand poured resin. He's just done an absolutely beautiful job of it. I love the way it looks dirty, it looks mossy, it looks damp, it looks sort of dark. Even the little window at the top there as well, and the kind of the foaming as things are bubbling up in the water. He's done a beautiful job of it, and here we can see it from that angle as well. But yeah, beautiful work, mate. Absolutely fantastic. Ed saying saving the best till last. He's done a cracking job, and I do love seeing the work that you're putting, mate. I know you always say I'm not really a gamer. I'm just a painter, and I paint the things I like. I like seeing the things that you like, mate. So keep doing what you're doing. So yeah, thanks for taking part, mate. Thank you very much for submitting it as well. And like I said before as well, if it wasn't for you folks submitting your stuff, it wouldn't be worth doing these monthly challenges. So please keep them coming. And if you're new to the monthly challenges, don't be put off by kind of, well, I don't think I'm a very good painter or anything like that. We love seeing the stuff that you paint. Jess is saying these have all been lovely, yeah. Just every time I see a Gundam thing, I want to build one and rust and graffiti and batter the hell out of it. Yeah, Tony saying the black lamp's a cool mini, yeah. And Clyde saying black lamp is the mini of the range. Yeah, I quite like that as well. Tony saying the guards are from Archon Studios Townfolk set. Thank you very much, mate. I wasn't familiar with where they were from. And Mordecai saying tremendous work, everyone. And Yoakum saying great work with the painting challenges, everyone. Very inspiring as usual to see what you've painted. And he says Andy's always saving the best for last. Stunning. And Zingbo says thanks all for sharing your photos. Yeah, thank you everybody. It's this community, it's you folks who take part and want to see these painting challenges that keeps them going. They might not get the most views on YouTube, but if you folks like seeing them, I'll keep running them. So remember, if you didn't catch last week's stream, this month's challenge is the Summer of Sci-Fi. You find a way to tie in whatever you're painting into the Summer of Sci-Fi. Maybe you tie it into the summer theme. Maybe you can tie it into kind of like a fantasy sci-fi theme if you're doing some fantasy stuff. Whatever you're doing, I kind of want to see them. And even if you can't think of a way to tie them in, send them in anyway. I just want to see people getting painted. Sorry. So, what was the other thing I wanted to kind of talk about as well? There's a couple of things. One was, I've been chatting a little bit about Moonstone lately. It's because I wanted to make a point when I went to UK Games Expo of going to see the Moonstone minis, because I'd seen them on their website and I absolutely loved them, but I hadn't always seen them in the flesh. And so here we've got a couple of box sets. I've got the Death and Taxes one, which is the newest box set for Moonstone, which is this one, and I'll show you. This is the one that's on the screen, and I've also got the Rune Fated box as well, which is another one. And the packaging, let me just go back to here a second. The packaging for these things is really, really nice the way that Goblin King Games send these out. So, as you can see, nice high gloss box, really nice quality, looks good. Inside, you've got 2 bits of foam, which basically just sandwich the miniatures inside to keep them from getting squashed. The cards that you need to play the game are tucked on the outside. And then inside, you've got the little baggies with the absolutely beautiful resin minis. But yeah, I love the way they're packaged. It's just really, really nice. So yeah, this is the Death and Taxes box. It comes with 3 models. One is Joby, one is the Tax Collector, and one is Portly Pete. Oh, you can't see them, can you? Let me flick them over. And these are the models here. Now on the Goblin King Games website, you see these, which are kind of, I assume that these are renders basically. It also shows you the stat cards as well, so you can see how they play in the game. But they always kind of show you the renders, and this is what I mean about how I've never seen them in the flesh. I've only ever seen these kind of renders or the nice painted miniatures that they show off. But I took some pictures tonight. Let me. I put them on Twitter earlier on. Let me see if I can find my Twitter pictures here. and see. Here we go. We'll go back to here. So these are some pictures that I took to show the miniatures off, and I don't think you can zoom in here, but this just gives you an idea of the quality of the sculpts. So you can see here, this is the tax collector, and this one is Joby. Just how nice and sharp these resin sculpts are. They really, really are good quality. And so whilst this shows you the kind of the renders and stuff, which look fantastic, but let's be honest, they're renders, that they're not the miniatures. It's hard to sort of be able to draw a comparison and say, well, yeah, but how good are the miniatures really? Here's kind of some photographs that I've took of this box that I've got here, just to kind of show the detail. Unfortunately, for some reason on Twitter, you can't zoom in to the pictures. Otherwise, I would zoom into these ones. In fact, I might have. Let me flick back to Facebook. I think I might have put some pictures on the Facebook group tonight as well, so I can show you those. There we go. Here, I can scroll across to here, and you can zoom in on these ones. There we go, just to kind of show you some of the detail. And you can see here with the glasses on the face here, and the eyebrows, even the teeth there as well. The little buttons on the coat, the buckles and the buttons and the straining there on the material. And then here again across on the Joby one, you can see the tongue hanging out of the side here, the eyelids and the eyeballs, the little kind of bullet holes shot through the coat, the neck, like the chain around there as well, like the pocket watch or whatever that is, even the laces on the boots. They're fantastic quality miniatures. And I've got the other one there as well. This is the this is the Portly Pete one there as well. You see the little laces hanging out with the little cash bags stuffed in underneath the armor and stuff. Really, really nice. A little bit of cleanup to do, but that just kind of scrapes off. Just a little bit of flash around the edge of the resin. But yeah, they look fantastic, and I just thought I wanted to kind of show that tonight, because it's not, you don't often get the chance to actually see the actual resin miniatures of themselves. Let's have a look. Yeah, Jez is saying nice packaging. Yeah, I thought it was as well. A lot of places would have just kind of popped them into plastic bags and thrown them inside, but the little bits of foam just keep them nice. Zingbo says, my Moonstone models have needed a bit more cleanup than the absolute best of the resin models I've encountered, but they're definitely lovely sculpts, and they're nice in the flesh as well as the renders. I don't know whether you've maybe just been a bit unlucky, mate, or whatever, but certainly the ones that I've received here, as I've just shown there, really were super, super clean. Josh was saying my phone needed a little cleaning, but they weren't awful. And Jez is saying, yeah, they're mad good quality. And Mordecai saying, excellent sculpts. Greg Cherry says, BlackJack built and primed all of Shatterpoint this weekend. Try it yet? I haven't tried it yet, mate. I'm still kind of, to be honest, with me doing my foot in and been hobbling around on crutches and stuff, I haven't got as much done as I'd planned to. What I have done is I've built all of the terrain, and I've primed all of the terrain, and then I've been doing this as one test piece. If we zoom in on that instead of me. So I've been doing this as a bit of a test piece. And the idea was, can I do this super quick? I mean, let me just, I'm gonna have to, I don't know if I can actually, I can't stand up, so let me just try and pull my chair forward. You can kind of see some of the texture in the colours there as well. It's not just primed, it's kind of, there's a bit of texture to it, and you can kind of see on the, whoops, not my face. Come on, don't zoom on my face, it doesn't want to see me. There we go. You can kind of see some of the texture to it. And the idea was, can I do a super quick kind of paint job that other people can follow? You don't need an airbrush to do it. So this has been my test piece, and the idea is the other bits of terrain that I've got over there, I'll make a bit of a video for those ones and show you kind of how to paint them super fast without an airbrush, and just get them on the table looking nice and decent. So yes, that's the plan with those at the minute. So that's why I've not got it finished, because I did that. Then I basically busted up my foot and hobbled around for a few days, and couldn't really kind of. The problem I've got is because I'm moving around with crutches, I find I can't carry anything in my hands, so I can't like set the camera up or anything like that. I'm working with what I've got for my live stream here. I can sit and paint, but I find it hard to move around and set cameras up and do that kind of thing. So hopefully over the next few days, I'll start to get a bit more. Even if I can get around on one crutch, I can kind of move things. I can carry a camera on a tripod and move around and stuff. So that's been a bit restrictive at the minute. But yeah. So that's the plan basically, is to kind of show how to do them super quick like this and just get them on the tabletop. Some people will want to really take the time and make them look great. Some people won't give a toss and they'll just kind of rattle can them and be done with it kind of thing. I'm just trying to kind of find that middle ground, but find them quick, because I've seen a few tutorials online already that basically use a lot of airbrushes to kind of to get things. And I know a lot of people see airbrush and go, ugh, I'm not following that then. It might look amazing, but if I haven't got an airbrush, I don't want to airbrush. This is basically just a lot of rattle cans and dry brushing, like kind of stippling and stuff. So yeah, I'll be doing that. Clyde's saying, going to need to find a local-ish supplier for their Moonstones. Yeah, I think, to be honest, mate, you can buy them direct as well from Goblin King Games. And that's obviously supporting the company as well by going direct to them. But there are a few places I think are starting to start to sell them as well. Yeah, Josh is saying looks very Star Wars. I kind of try to keep it relatively neutral. Like a lot of the gaming mats that I've got like a nice kind of like sort of forest sort of mat, like a nice green one, kind of like which would look good with this kind of beige and grey on it. And then I've got like a deserty sand type mat as well, which again, excuse me, the sandiness will kind of blend in with the mat and stuff, and then the models will obviously stand out. Mordecai saying looking forward to it, thank you very much. Super Pumpkin saying at least with Star Wars terrain it's got plenty of references. Yeah, I think I've generally gone similar to the kind of the box art, to be fair. Superman, Super Pumpkin Man saying be kind and do not forget to drop a like. Can we squeeze a few more likes out, folks? It'd be nice if we could. Greg saying, yeah, I'm trying oil wash on them for the first time. Paint on and wipe off with makeup sponge and call it. Test piece was way too thick, but hope it works. Ian's of Battle had a good tutorial. I've never done anything with their oil washes before, but I keep hearing a lot of people sort of doing them now. Thank you very much, Clyde, as well, for that very kind comment there as well. I won't read it out because it's not. I don't want to look like I'm fishing for cash, but I do appreciate the shout out there, mate. Thank you very much. So, is there anything else I want to chat about as well? I think there was actually. Yeah, I wanted to draw your attention to a company who I met, Chris, at UK Games Expo, who runs Fenris Games. And I just wanted to kind of shine a bit of a light on it. So Chris does a lot of kind of like resin type stuff, basically. So if you're a 3D printer, you might say, oh, well, I don't need this kind of stuff. Not everybody 3D prints this stuff. He does a lot of kind of laser cutting type things. So if you need anything laser cutting, they can do it for you. But he also has an online shop which basically sells many, many different things. There's kind of scenery for Mythos, which is little bits of scatter terrain. I think, Tony, a lot of this stuff's right up your street, mate, for the kind of diorama type stuff that you're building and things like that as well. There's things like street furniture. So if you're playing games of like Walking Dead, there's tents and things. There's electricity pylons. There's little walls and barriers. I mean, there's pages and pages of this stuff. Fencing, like little sewer covers and things. If you want some sci-fi scenery, there's all sorts of things. Bits of doors and walls and sort of off-world colonies, bits of power generators and scatter terrain stuff. If you're looking for counters or markers, they do that kind of stuff too. But they also do basin bits. There's a thing here called Arkham Avenue, so there's little bits of like shingles for roofs, brick walls, like sort of like Arkham Asylum type gates and things. If you're doing any bits of like scratch building for boards or like little diorama stuff. But something I've used them for in the past, and I would definitely recommend them for again, is for bases. They do some really, really good resin bases and base toppers as well. When I first got into Malifaux, I used to buy all of my bases from Fenris Games, and I can highly speak for the quality of them. They were always fantastic. But yeah, depending upon what you want, if you want something relatively simple, they've got like a range called Dragon's Lair, which is kind of like sort of cracked earth bases. There's things like Black Freighter, which is kind of like wooden as you can see, kind of like wooden, sort of old rickety wooden ship, kind of planked bases. We'll have a look through a few more. If you're looking for something a bit more sci-fi, there's kind of like industrial space Hulk type things here, as you can see. Very much kind of like sort of grating, whether it's games of Space Hulk or whether it's games of 40k or Kill Team or something like that. But yeah, all sorts of bits and pieces. There's things like Mega City. So yeah, I would just kind of recommend you just basically go and check it out. Have a look through the Fenris Games website. Please go and follow them on Twitter or Facebook as well. So if you go to the Twitter page, Fenris Games, this is the one that you're looking for. Go and give them a follow. Got a nice big account. Chris, the guy that I spoke to, if you actually go back to the if you go to the About section, it tells you a little bit about Fenris Games. Sorry, not Chris. Sorry, Ian. That's what I meant to say. And he basically, it's Ian who I met, and he said he's hard modelling, casting, sculpting, painting, CAD experience in television and film special effects, architectural model making, engineering, and prototype modelling. He's made some amazing stuff for like sort of TV, films, specialist stuff for people's like display boards and that kind of stuff. It's really worth following on Twitter to be able to see some of the stuff that he works on as well. So yes, please do check him out, and if you get chatting and you give him a follow, let him know where you saw it, because it's always nice to kind of let them know that, you know, where did you find Fenris Games, and it shows that basically that you know, getting the word out there, and sort of, it's nice to see these smaller, and I mean this in the nicest term, but these smaller kind of miniatures companies, and sort of the companies that are like operate on the periphery of like the miniatures games type stuff, they still need your support, especially kind of you know, like with the advent of 3D printing and stuff. It's good to know who these companies are. Jess is saying Fenris does nice work. His rune stones are gorgeous, and his runes are amazing. Yeah, Josh is saying rune stones. You say I'll have to take a look. Yeah, so make sure you go and check out Fenris Games as well. So where are we at? We're at 10:30. I think we might as well just get into the last half-hour ramble here. I think this is the point when people start to get tired and start drifting away and things like that as well. So yeah, let's just have a bit of a natter. Let's see what you want to talk about while I pack my stuff away here. Is stuff. Jez is saying it's great seeing good smaller makers getting a shout out. You know what, mate? It's the kind of thing where like you want to make sure people get to find out about them. They might not do the kind of things that necessarily sort of warrant doing like a full video, like showcasing all of the different bits and pieces, but it's those kind of companies that when you're building something a bit different, or you're looking for some like nice bases for like a nice little kind of army that you're making, especially if you're doing something like Moonstone or like Malifaux or things like that, or like games where you're not using a lot of bases, you might just want the odd few kind of special resin bases for your miniatures. And you end up like not really knowing who these companies are. So yeah, it's definitely worth sort of giving them a shout as well. Clyde saying Indie of the Week's the best bit on Tabletop Weekender. Love this kind of coverage. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'll definitely kind of if this is what folks want to see, I will happily try and every week just try and shout out one of these games, one of these creators, one of these model makers or something like that. Like the you know, these companies that sell sort of odd random sculpts that you kind of use in your games of D&D or something like that. We can shout them out. We'll, you know, this is a place where everybody kind of gets to get heard about. VG says I really love the Archon Studios He-Man minis all painted up at UK Games Expo. Pity about the game. I'll be honest, mate, I've not played the miniatures game version. I think the miniatures game is a bit better than the board game. But yeah, the minis are nice. I mean, mine's still in the box, to be fair, when the one they sent to me, because I didn't have time to do anything with it, and I actually said I didn't have time, and so don't send me it, and they still sent me it, so that was why it's kind of still sitting there. Deep Red said yes, please shout out the lesser known manufacturers. The other side of it as well, if I do tell you about these like lesser known ones, get out there and tell them that you know, you heard about it on here as well, because it helps us work together in the future on things. It means that when they're releasing something new, they'll come and tell me about it, so then I can talk about it to you as well, so I get to find out about it, because sometimes it's hard for them to create a bit of marketing noise, so I don't get to hear that they're releasing new stuff, so I don't get to tell you that they're releasing new stuff. So yeah, so it's a bit of a two-way street. If they know that I am happy to talk about them because you've gone and visited their site or whatever, or you've visited their Twitter page because you've heard it here, and they know you've heard it here, they'll come back and tell me, oh, I've got some stuff coming out, if you want to kind of shout it out kind of thing. Greg saying, I've been so close to buying Moonstone minis many times, I just don't know about their combat bluff card system, but minis are great for RPGs. The card bluff system, mate, is actually one of the best parts of the game. It's so different. It's really, really simple. It's more tactical than you think, but it works really, really well. Big Dave's off to bed. See you the next one. See you later, Dave. Take care, mate. John says, I get confused with the He-Man as two went to crowdfunding at the same time. Yeah, and I think one of the problems was, that one of them was the European version and one was the US version, and they were made by two completely different companies. They both had the license to sell in specific markets, and it all got confusing which was which. Mordecai says, I remember when you were talking about Mantic Vault, you made the distinction that because Mantic make game rules, it makes the move to STLs different from Wargames Atlantic, and I was wondering why. So, the difference with Wargames Atlantic is that because they don't make games, they can release random bits and pieces to either as miniatures or as STLs, and there's no difference. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to buy their stuff. You don't there's no specific kind of rules in a book for it or anything like that. The difference with Mantic was because they have a game attached to the miniatures that they are releasing as STL files. It becomes more difficult. So you have to go and buy the plastic models for the main kind of bulk of the bodies, if you like, of the army. And then you have to use the STL files to be able to 3D print the bits to upgrade the models. And whilst at the moment there's still kind of where you can still technically buy those upgrade bits on the website, I think over time what will happen is Mantic they'll run into a situation where they don't know what to fill the vault with. They will run out of upgrade kits for the models that they've got. They will run out of Armada ships for the Armada fleets that they've got. And they'll need to bring something new out to basically keep the vault being sort of worthwhile value for money. And this is where they'll kind of run into a bit of a weird situation, because what they'll do is they'll either release new sculpts that aren't available to buy as models, which means you get a them and us situation where only people who can get models 3D printed, or only people who subscribe to the vault, can get these models for Mantic's game. Now, if they didn't have a game, then that's irrelevant. It doesn't really matter at that point. And that's what I mean about it. That's why there's a bit of a difference. And that's why I think most other companies who have games don't do this. You've got one-page rules who 3D print everything, and you're starting to be able to buy them as physical models through things like My Mini Factory. But those models are all STLs. Everybody accesses the game through that system. Mantic has this kind of weird split at the minute, and it might not pan out that way, but all I can see from the limited knowledge that I have is there will come a point in the future where they have exhausted all of the upgrade kits, all of the models that they make in resin that they now are basically releasing alongside stuff, and all of those resin ships and stuff, and they will need to start sculpting new STL files, which then won't be available as models, and it will split the player base between, well, I don't 3D print stuff, or I don't have access to 3D printed stuff, therefore I can't have them models for the game that I play. That's kind of what I mean. VJ saying there, Archeon board game equals not good. Simon board game equals good. Archeon minis game, who knows? Yeah. Night Ed, thanks for dropping in, mate. Take care. And Mordecai says, good points. Thanks for clarifying. You're welcome, mate. I could be 100 miles away from the truth of this one. I could be completely wrong on this one. But the problem is, and it's not really necessarily now. It's what happens in 4 months' time. Because I think that's when we'll really start to see if this works. Because we chatted to Ronnie at UK Games Expo, and they've mentioned something in the Facebook pages recently about they've got about 6 months of stuff planned out for the vault, and I think it'll be what happens then that will define whether this works or not. It's fine at the minute. Putting the Armada ships out, it's fantastic value. You can download all the Armada ship files. You can print them out. You can play a whole game with them. I think that's brilliant. But there will come a point where the Armada, they just run out of Armada stuff. They run out of stuff. They can't keep releasing new fleets every month to keep kind of that supplied. So I just think there'll come a point where it dries up a bit, and they will have to replace that with something. Nathan Arnold says there are commercial licenses. They are commercial licenses, mate. Those commercial licenses are only available to bricks and mortar stores. So you can't buy a commercial license and 3D print stuff at home and sell them online, for example. The commercial licenses are only available to bricks and mortar stores who do it. Over in the States, it's quite a popular thing to have gaming stores with 3D printing facilities. It's not that popular in the UK yet. I'm sure it will become more popular if there is more of a demand for it, but it's not that popular at the moment. Not everybody has a local gaming store. I'd be interested to see whether local gaming stores will do 3D printing and shipping things out, or is it more aimed at just supplying to a local market with the odd few bits and pieces here and there. And I also I'm yet to see the prices of the stuff. I think when people see how much it costs for a local store to 3D print something and ship it out to them, and they realise that it's not actually that much cheaper than buying it direct from Mantic in the first place, it'll be interesting to kind of see that. The difference being, at the minute with the stuff that's released, Mantic still produce it and sell it. In the future, who knows? That's kind of the thing. Clyde saying these terrain pieces are going to mug my wallet, these Fenris terrain pieces. Well, if it empties your wallet, mate, make sure you tell them where it come from. VG saying might replace it with a new game. I think the problem, mate, is if you go to the trouble of creating a new game and you do all of the artwork and you do all of the rules writing and you do all of the sculpting and everything else, I think the problem is then, unless you're selling them on a big scale, like through the subscription platform, unless it's on a really big scale, I don't think you ever really get the money back, because you're not selling multiples of those models. You're basically the one and done kind of thing. And I think as a Mantic are a miniatures company, they make the vast majority of their money through selling miniatures. As an outsider, this is not with any prior knowledge and not with any insider knowledge. I'm just a curious customer, the same as everybody else is. I'm just a little bit wary about it. I really want it to work. I hope it works. I've got my fingers crossed. I want it to work. If I'm looking at it from a business point of view, I would like to see a bit more of a further forecast to see what's coming next, because they will run out of stuff to give. In the way that one-page rules just keeps creating new models to go with their armies. They just put more stats into the game. They create a whole new faction. They put more stats into their one-page rules games. Mantic are already at like 20-something factions in Kings of War. They can't keep creating new factions. And if they do create new factions and they're STL only, then all of a sudden the player base at the minute, where half of the players are 3D printing stuff and half of the players are buying like sort of plastic models, it's going to get a little bit messy. That's the bit that I don't know about. VG saying some new characters for various games would be nice, but would exclude people. That's the bit, mate. Yeah. And just saying they could do licensed printers like Artisans Guild. They are doing licensed printers, mate, but those licensed printers at the minute have to be a bricks and mortar store. They have to be a physical game store, like a hobby store. You can't be an online only retailer, and I think that at the minute is quite kind of is quite important, I think, at this stage. VJ saying taking his supreme toilet paper production knowledge and applying it to the mini game, always insightful. I think it's just I've worked in business, like in different types of industries, and looked at like sort of long-term plans. And one of the things that I used to do was, like, because I worked in product development, I used to work a lot in like risk analysis and long-term planning and long-term payback. And you couldn't basically, like, we used to buy machines that were anywhere between £2.5 and £50 million, and you couldn't basically write a what was it called again? It was basically called a CapEx submission, a CapEx for capital expenditure, and you were basically writing to the board, like the main head office board, to justify why they should give you £50 million to spend on new projects. And you couldn't just say, well, I've got 6 months worth of plans and we'll see what happens, kind of thing. You had to have like a 10-year plan for this. Like, so I'm kind of, my background and my knowledge is grounded in that. Yeah, I can see short term this makes a lot of sense, but then what? And it might be that games companies work differently. Maybe they think very much short term. But I've worked in bigger industry where they think long term. They think about long term paybacks. They think about depreciation of machines over 15 years and things like that. So maybe it's just the way I think. I tend to think on a longer scale, and it might be that longer scale is only like 12 months or 2 years. But yeah, I think what Mantic are doing with the STL stuff with the Vault is a very, very good idea. My nervousness is in the longevity of, but what next? Because I know you're saying you won't release any files that are plastic minis, because we want people to buy the plastic stuff, and we'll only release the resin files in like the upgrade parts that we also sell, so that basically there's no them and us kind of market. And I agree with that, but there is a finite amount of stuff where eventually they will basically just go, all right, we've done everything now what? Josh is saying, I don't have a printer yet as much as I want one. Yeah. Coffee and Pistachios is saying, cheers for the stream, mate. Take it easy. Bye, everyone. Thank you very much. Vijay says, why I need £50 million. Did you see what was that? Games Expo? Yeah, it was, I mean, because one of the things we used to look at was, because, like, if we talk about toilet rolls there, like, you don't ship toilet rolls abroad. So one of the reasons that, like, you make toilet rolls in the UK and don't make them in China and just ship them in is because they're so light, and comparatively for their value, they're quite big. So in order to bring in vast sums of toilet paper from abroad, like, you couldn't afford, it would cost you more to ship it in than it would to make it in the country where you sell it. So that's kind of how that business works. The problem is, you got 60 million people in the UK. That number isn't getting any bigger really anytime soon. 95% of people buy toilet rolls. Some people don't for religious reasons and stuff like that, but I won't get into that. But 95% of the country uses the product, so there is a finite amount of stuff that people buy. People don't, like, sort of use more of it if it's a luxury thing. Like people, like, they switch and change between different brands and things, but they generally use the same amount all the time. So there's a finite, almost fixed volume of toilet rolls you can sell, and your business has a portion of that market. So if you're going to invest in, like, a new paper machine, you need somewhere to sell that paper. It needs to go somewhere, which is why you need to have multiple years of kind of plans. And I guess miniature gaming is the same, really, as in miniature gaming is growing, but it's probably growing, like, if Games Workshop doubles their sales, every other miniatures company might grow by 5%, 10%. So if you're sort of planning on that, there's still a relatively finite amount of the market. The likes of Mantic, for example, because we're talking about them, are probably not trying to steal market share from Games Workshop. They're probably trying to steal market share from Conquest, or trying to steal market share from Infinity, or that kind of stuff, or Malifaux, or Moonstone even. They're probably trying to steal market share away from the other companies that are not Games Workshop. So yeah, it's kind of like, you know, that's why I always think about things as in like, what's the long-term plan? Where's this going? Or are these companies quite happy to just make some money for 6 months and then forget about it, do something else? VG says, Johnny said no dead zone terrain in 3D files, unfortunately, but would take a chunk of their revenue, yeah. VG says, what religion is anti-toilet paper? Now I'm intrigued. Yeah, I'm not getting into that, mate. Jess says, everyone has a bunghole. And no, we didn't supply the 3 seashells. Some religions basically just wash and clean. Basically, they don't use disposable toilet paper. They clean a different way. Johnny says, some terrain might well make it at some point, but I don't think a lot of the older stuff is rendered. But equally, not my department, so I couldn't possibly say. Yeah, I tell you what, mate, totally. I would love at some point to have a bit of a chat with Ronnie or Clive or like any of the team, really, about the kind of the long-term plans about it. It's the way my brain works when I've been in business in the past. It was my job to look at like, well, what happens 2, 3, 4 years down the line, kind of thing. And I think, unfortunately, like it might not even be relevant in this situation, but that's where my head goes, kind of thing. Vicky says, do you make toilet paper out of pork? You don't, mate. It's made out of wood, to be fair. Although, to be fair, some glues that are used can sometimes be non-necessarily vegetarian, if you like. So yeah, so there's all sorts of things out there as well. Mordecai says, I think if Mantic prioritise alternate sculpts to existing models, it still has appeal without fully stepping on the toes of general hobbyists. Let me flip it this way, right? What would happen if Games Workshop started releasing alternative sculpts that a lot of the player base couldn't get their hands on? How do you think that would go down? Because it's the same situation if Mantic do it, but because sort of by comparison every other company is just smaller, we tend to think, oh, it's not such a big deal, kind of thing. But if Games Workshop did it, if Games Workshop started releasing certain kind of Space Marine models, certain kind of Tyranid models that only certain people could buy, I think you'd see like you'd see pitchforks and flaming torches, kind of thing. Josh says, do you mean Forge World? I guess everybody can buy Forge World stuff, to be fair. There is still a website where you can buy it. Johnny says, I'll make sure to pop you in the diary. Thanks, mate. Thank you very much. Jess is saying, I just use one of those dry brushing palettes that are all the rage. Do you know what, mate? I've got mine here. Oh, I've been using for my Star Wars stuff. If I can get my hands on it. Oh, excuse me. These MDF boards, which are basically just like engraved and MDF. So the idea behind these is if you use kitchen towel, like paper towel, and you basically you brush your dry brush on it, the paper towel draws the moisture out of the brush, so the paint becomes very, very dry and very, very chalky. And when you dry brush with it like that, that's when you get that powdery kind of dry brush look to it. If you use like a dry brush board like this, or you use something that won't absorb the moisture from your brush, because even though you're dry brushing, it technically should still be damp, if you like. There should be a little bit of wetness, because you're still trying to move paint around. You still try to get it to flow. If you use a dry board like that, you keep some of the moisture in the brush. So when you come and like stipple on, the paint actually transfers as opposed to the dried powdery paint transferring. But yeah, I mean, I used kitchen towel for years and years, mainly because I got it for free from my old job. But yeah, when I got one of them boards given to me, I got some brushes given to me a long time ago when the Artis Opus brushes first came out, and it came with one of those boards. I've just used that ever since, and I must admit it does make a difference. Mordecai saying the player base can't get their hands on GW's primary sculpts. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not in that. I'm glad I'm not in that whole circle of GW stuff. Johnny says, you got to fly. Catch you soon. Take care, Johnny. Thanks for dropping in, mate. VJ says, yeah, we'd definitely only be Marines. Josh says, everybody can buy the Vault stuff too, just can't necessarily use it. There is that, mate. Yeah, I mean, anybody can get the files, but if you can't print them out, yeah, you're kind of screwed that way. Jess is saying, I mean, I use a dry brush palette for bug roll. Sorry, mate. Vigis, I didn't see her, Johnny. Clyde saying, Fenris sells giant mushrooms too. I think I've sent you off down a rabbit hole, mate. Have you disappeared now? Matthew Rose, hello, mate. He says, looks like you could use any wooden clipboard as well. The difference with this one, mate, is it's engraved like with a texture. Let me just try and show you. Because I'm assuming it's it's like a sheet of MDF really, basically. But can you see how there's a texture to it? It actually says Artis Opus across it. Actually, it's that texture that basically it's that texture that like sort of drags off the paint. Because if you were just using it on a flat surface, I think you would just kind of smear it around. It's that texture, the engraving on the board, that actually kind of like sort of like takes off some of the paint, like to reduce it for dry brushing. But you can make your own versions of it. There's videos online that show you how to make your own version. You can 3D print them if you have like an STL printer or something like that. You can 3D print these dry brushing boards. Loads of people just kind of get a piece of MDF and just glue bits of like sprue and bits of like sort of leftover bits of like bits of guns and heads and like little bits from model kits that they don't use, and just glue them on the board. Give it a prime, give it a spray paint, just to kind of sort of mold it all in, and then just kind of use that as well. So it's more to do with it's like a texture palette, I think is what they call them. Yeah, John says, so what happens with the dry brush palette when it's covered with paint? How do you remove it? I don't think you do, mate. To be fair, I think you just buy another one, really. Like in the same way you'd run out of kitchen towels, so you buy another one. I don't think they're very expensive. They're like a piece of MDF. They're a few quid. I don't think they're a fortune. But I mean, eventually it will. I know exactly what you mean. It will build up and kind of fill in with paint, won't it? Jess says Fenris does. In saying that, I've had that one for years and I'm still using it. So it's not something I think you'd have to replace very often. Jess says Fenris does some lovely stuff. Check out Annie at Bad Squidward Games for more giant shrooms. Yeah, Bad Squidward Games as well, 100%. And Mark says glue, play, ground sand on the board. Yeah, that's another thing you can do as well, mate. Yeah, just kind of glue bits of sand on and stuff like that, bits of texture stuff. In fact, let me have a little look and see if you can buy like texture, dry brush texture board. Let's just see what comes if I take. So there we go. So if I go to here, I've just put in dry brush texture board, and you can see that people sell these kind of things like on Etsy. So it's just called craft lickers, and it's obviously 3D printed. You can see there if I zoom in on it, you can see the texture there with the 3D print, where they've basically just and it's just to give some kind of ridges to drag your brush across and just take the bits off. But because it doesn't absorb the paint, it doesn't absorb the moisture, rather your brush stays that little bit damp as well, so it works really well. So there's those kind of things. I'm sure other companies, I mean, who's this here? Something on eBay. This is like a little insert that fits inside. So this is the Army Painter palette, the wet palette. I've got one of these as well. And somebody sells it looks like a 3D printed texture pad as well that just fits in the lid, and it's just different textures. It's obviously different textures that's being used for like basin material type thing, and they've made like a dry brush palette that just sits in there. That's another way to do it. So it looks like, I mean, there's a video there from MS Paint about leveling up your dry brushing game, homemade texture one. I would definitely recommend checking out his stuff. So yeah, there's ways to do the custom ones, and there's the Artis Opus ones. They're $5.99. The ones that I've got as well, I think. All these are just little small texture palettes. They might do bigger ones as well. Let's have a look. Or the extra large texture palettes, 15 quid. Those ones. I think essentially that's roughly, it might be bigger than the one I've got. Has it got a size on it? It says it's A4 size. That's the same as the size of the one that I've got as well. So, and they do different sort of different designs and stuff. Not that it makes any difference. There's a one with a cat on it kind of thing. I don't think it makes any difference, but it's just something to rub your brush on, if you like. So yeah, there's different ones. Jezza saying, I use the lid of my wet palette. It gets more and more textured. Yeah. And Jezza saying, I've seen folks use primed corkboard too. Yeah, that might do it as well, mate. Actually, corkboard's kind of got a bit of a texture to it. VG says, that's a nice add-on for the Army Painter palette, but 18 quid, that's more than the actual palette. I think it might be, actually. I'm assuming there'll be a file somewhere. In fact, let me... I bet there's a... if I put STL dry brush palette... Let's see if there's any STL files. Oh, there you go. So there's the one on Thingiverse. It's a free file. You can tip the designer, but yeah, it's just essentially it's just a file that you print off. So that would work the same way as well. And you could probably even reshape it yourself as well. You could probably even reshape it in kind of some software to fit inside a palette thing or something like that. So there is free versions if you've got a 3D printer. It would work in resin as well, although it would probably take up a chunk of resin. But yeah, it'll work just 3D printed off in plastic as well. So yeah, multiple ways you can do that. Right, folks, I think we've just hit 11 o'clock there now. So I think we're going to call it a night. My foot is starting to ache a bit, so I need to get in bed and prop it up with about 3 pillows and lift it up. And I'm going to try and have a good sleep. In Jezza, yeah, good use for dead sprues. You're not wrong, mate. So, take care, folks. I'm going to try and get some videos out this week. Like I say, it really does depend upon whether I can kind of sort of move around, and if I can get around on one crutch, I might be able to kind of start to move camera positions and things like that and set things up. But if not, I might have to just try and maybe do a piece to camera type video or something like that. Yeah, everyone's saying hope the foot gets better. No worries at all, mate. And Vicky saying, I hope you go to bed, you might wake up with new pain. Maybe that's the trick, just stay awake now. NMP22, thank you very much, mate, for the kind words. Very kind of you. You too as well, Joachim as well, saying thanks for the stream. So yeah, take care, folks. I will see you around in the Patreon chat in Discord. I'll see you on Facebook this week as well. If you don't follow me on Facebook or you don't follow me on Instagram or on Twitter, please hit me up there as well. I'm BlackJack Legacy on all those different platforms. Always cool to see some new people there. And whatever you do this week, do it with a smile on your face and enjoy it. So take care, folks, and I'll see you in the live stream next week. Bye, folks.